All right, hi everybody. I'm particularly excited about this panel because we are at the intersection of two very powerful forces, which is AI and storytelling. You know, with AI now, media companies are no longer just creating content; they're curating an experience and working with algorithms that know more about their audience than they do. And really, you know, everything's changing in this industry. So we're really privileged to have here Tom from Dow Jones and the Wall Street Journal, Deepika from the LA Times, and Ranjit from Google, specifically from the part of Google that does AI for media. So I'll have a great opportunity to start it. And maybe we'll start with some introductions. So Tom, do you want to start and do a little bit about yourself, and then we'll walk down?
Sure, yeah. My name is Tom Gebauer. I just joined Dow Jones about 6 months ago, the SVP of Design and Research. I oversee, and my team oversees, all of the different media properties that Dow Jones owns in terms of the product design and the research of our audiences and the UX research and things like that. Prior to Dow Jones, I spent 8 years at Google, spent about 4 years at Yahoo. So I've been kind of in Silicon Valley for a while. I was at a startup for a while. But I've been in design my whole life, focused mostly on UI design, UX design, and whatever it's been called over the years. Happy to be here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all had wonderful lunch, and we'll do our best to keep you up. I'm Deepika Manglani. I'm a VP of Product and Program Management with the Los Angeles Times. I've been in the industry for a little short of 20 years, with about 13 being in media at LA Times under different ownerships. That's also how long our digital paywall has been up. That doesn't make me look very young. No offense to the more younger people, but I am thrilled to have had the experience and the incredible journey at the Times over these years. I have implemented several enterprise platforms, gone through several migrations, been part of our digital transformation journey from the early on, have seen and helped with multimedia storytelling. And my current focus has been innovating our reader experience and creating AI tools and products for our internal, external users that drive revenue or help us save cost, and some of which we'll be diving into today. So excited for that.
Ranjit?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming to this talk. I should also say thank you to the lovely folks on the Avasant team for the invite and for hosting us today. I'm Ranjit Raju. I'm a head of AI strategy for media and entertainment at Google. Full disclosure, this is week 8 in the role, so go easy on me, Andre. And but yeah, my background has always been at the intersection of media and entertainment, or content production, and technologies that enhance or add efficiency to that storytelling power. So prior to this role at Google, I was at AWS for the last 5 years. Prior to that, I was also at a number of startups within the space, and then I was at Nielsen for a period. And way prior to that, I started my career in content production, in film development, and as a producer.
I mean, with a great background, right? We're all going into Google. Love that. All right, maybe Tom, let's start with you. You know, talking about the Wall Street Journal, obviously with a storied history in print. How are you adapting that? You know, how are you using user research and kind of your UX experience to kind of adapt that for modern audiences?
Yeah, you know, we have a lot of research that we do with our, you know, both. We have sort of like customer insights research, which is sort of looking at sort of like broader trends in terms of what our users are actually wanting to see from the journal. Then we have UX research, which is sort of more qualitative and quantitative, you know, basically determining like how people are using the apps. You know, so I think as we kind of evolve the Wall Street Journal, you know, we're actually working through, you know, new features right now actually, and kind of validating those with data, you know, seeing how people are actually interacting with them, doing some, you know, more like things that are more, you know, like more modern launches behind, you know, feature flags that we're sort of testing things to see how users respond to these specific things we're building into the apps. But we're also very mindful of the fact that we want to have like a very reader-first type experience. Of course, we have now new media that we're actually adding in. Well, I guess it's not really that new, like podcasts and video and things like that are not particularly new. But we're making sure that when we have that type of content, it's well integrated into the app, into the broad set of apps that we have. Wall Street Journal is just one of them. And also looking at additional ways we can add value to the actual consumer's experience with Dow Jones properties as a whole. So, as we've been migrating, users, some people are like looking for the print experience in the Wall Street Journal and our different publications. We're trying to add additional value to that, to their experience through the different features we're shipping and all the testing we're doing. But basically everything we do, we're trying to validate with data now. So, yeah.
It's kind of amazing to be doing that in a space where, I'm going to date myself, but I'm old enough to remember when the Wall Street Journal just had these little line carvings of people. Like, there weren't even real photos, much less color photos, and kind of, now you're going to podcasts, and that's like new media for you.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting challenge to be breaking ground there. And typically your experience is different, right? You've been pushing product innovation at the LA Times. It seems like you guys are a little more experimental with that kind of stuff. Is that true?
To some extent, yes. So we have been doing a lot of things in innovation and in the specific AI space. I'll first talk about what we have recently done and then what we are looking forward to doing next. So about a few months ago in March, we launched Insights for our opinion stories that gives an alternative perspective over the opinion piece. So it's essentially utilizing two AI tools, Particle and Perplexity. So Particle provides a viewpoint and where the story stands between left, center, and right. And then the Perplexity Insight provides a summary of the story generated using the Perplexity tool. And it also gives links to those alternate viewpoints with the original sources where it's pulling from. So the goal is to give our readers an experience of our opinion voice, and in addition to that, to avoid having the bias that one may think there may be in our voice, especially the op-ed voices. So this will give them the alternate perspective and a critical thinking around what others are saying for the same piece. And since then, we've seen our engagement go up by 80%. We have seen more time spent on those stories. We have seen more comments being added. We've seen social engagement go up by 97%. And we have seen the conversion go up by 40%. So it's still early. And it may be the early gains, but so far it's been great. So that's what we have been doing. And what we look forward to is we have this historic digital archives going from the very first LA Times edition of December 4th, 1881. And back then, no other national newspapers covered the West Coast. It was only the local paper like us that has those stories all the way from 1881 to 1960. 1960 and forward is when the East Coast papers started going more national, started covering more West Coast stories. So this data that we have is a gold mine. So we're working on making it available by parsing through one of the LLM tools, making it indexed, making it more searchable, making it available for more conversational searches. Since 2022, nobody wants to do a keyword search or a topic search. Everybody's looking for context conversational searches. So this data is what we are working on, making it available. And the number of products that could be created out of it, there's no limit to that. So that's been in the pipeline, and that's what we are looking forward to.
Exciting space to be in. That's really good. And just to bounce back to Tom for a second, that kind of idea where you might do your own PolitiFact rating of an article that you've published and might give counterfactual positions to what the editorial, is that something that you would find difficult to do at the Wall Street Journal, given the division between kind of the editorial independence and kind of the way that things are presented?
Yeah, I think that the editorial team would kind of have to make the decision as to whether or not they would want to have something like that. I think that my role in heading up the design of the sort of platform product is to sort of create a surface that allows them to, the editorial team and anyone who's across all of our publications really can actually just have the best surface to publish the content on. We do a lot of collaboration with the editorial team to sort of vet with them, like what is the most valuable tool that we can design for you to help you tell stories. We haven't heard from them that they would want something like that. Right. So we haven't really indexed too much on it. But we are always talking to them. They're one of our key stakeholders. If they ever ask for it, we'll design it, but they haven't done so far. Yeah.
It's just interesting to imagine where that comes from, right? Yeah. And Roger, can you give an opinion on this coming from kind of with your history in media? And you've often, I know, been thinking about kind of the appetite for this kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a tricky area in terms of trying to figure out optimizing AI tooling and efficiency for creative process, for storytelling, for publishing efforts. I think a lot of it in the media space in particular goes to, and specifically with our panelists here as well, really goes back to two central areas. One of those is going to be ability to add personalization and more effective results and drive engagement. And the other is going to be on efficiency and time-saving tools for journalism and creative output, right? So it's the ability to create those stories faster. It's the ability to also be able to create more personalized results to a degree, because again, journalism needs to have certain guardrails for that. But the ability to create journalistic results that are going to drive increased audience awareness and engagement with that content. And even to the point of, Deepika, you were saying about how for an opinion piece you're offering that contrasting view. Additionally, I mean, you all have this, as you said, goldmine, this archive of content. We're seeing that as a trend throughout media and entertainment, where everybody has access. Many of the mainstay organizations, the large-scale organizations in this space have a similar archive of content. But if you look at even something like podcasting material today, and podcasting is something where there's modern content being created on a very active basis, right? And some of these are relatively new as well. But even in that world of podcasting, there's very limited viewership today, if you look at the numbers on podcasts after their release, right? It's to a limited extent. Certain episodes will really stand out. Certain episodes, I know I will revisit episodes of Radio Lab or go look up an old Jonathan Gold talk, things like that. But with those exceptions, mostly that drops off. Right. But if you can figure out ways to take that archive content and optimize it into new formats, provide that with, even if we look into accessibility like localization, right, dubbing, additional capabilities to globalize that content, then you get back to, okay, again, we have now a mechanism that's not disrupting or replacing creative process, but it's offering greater accessibility and opportunities for engaging with this storytelling.
Giving it then a new life.
Yeah,
That same
exactly.
story comes again. Yep. Lovely. And that reminds me, Deepika, when Ron just talking about the personalization and the repackaging, you know that you've got an experience that you did that, looking at different cultures and different generations, I think, with something you launched recently.
Yes, we've done personalization for a very long time, even before the ChatGPT boom. We did create some machine learning models. This was, I think, during COVID. We created an NLP model that reads the sentiment of the story that the user is reading and will make recommendations for other subsequent stories that continue the same and carry the same sentiment. We have done personalization using geolocation, where the users are logging in from, and they may want to read things around what's going on around them. And this was all like pre-AI. With AI, most recently, we have been exploring bandits to give us a dynamic view of what content, what products, what experience customers are engaging most with. So that gives us real-time data of what they are engaging. It's like, the traditional A/B testing used to split users evenly between the two groups for a fixed period of time and evaluate the results, versus the multi-layered bandits are helping us optimize and present the higher performing stories to the users based on the results that are read real time. And this is also fairly new, was launched in March of this year, and we have seen some unprecedented results. We have seen our homepage click-through rate go up to 200% after implementing this on the homepage and on several stories. So we have not yet touched into contextual bandits, which is more about reading about what the user's device is, what is the time of the day, what is their browsing history, and personalized using that. So that may be something we venture into in the future.
Further expansion of it, which is
Exactly.
great, right?
Yeah.
And especially when you see those kinds of numbers. I mean, it's amazing to see. Yeah. And Tom, we've talked a little bit about kind of where you're working with personalization, where maybe it's more for the WSJ Plus kind of idea. Could you talk through your view on that?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like if everyone in this room today opens up the Wall Street Journal app and they look at their experience there, it's going to be effectively the same thing. That's because that's basically an editorially curated experience that is largely what the editors want consumers to be reading, what they think is important. We have just recently launched a new product called WSJ Plus, which actually looks across all of the properties that Dow Jones owns and allows the user to collect either, well, we collect some, what I would call like implicit personalization, like behavioral information that allows us to sort of tune the algorithm that basically allows us to take all the content. So this is like a bundling strategy, actually, right? So if you subscribe to all these different products that we have, like Market Watch and Barron's and Wall Street Journal or Investors Business Daily, you can go across all these different properties and we'll actually track your behaviors there, and then we can provide you with a personalized experience within WSJ Plus. So it's actually another surface that we're using, that's more of a personalized space where you can get like a curated something that's attuned to you, and then you can also choose what I would call like explicit personalization tuning, where you can kind of choose what kind of things you want to have in this experience, what companies you're interested in, stocks you want to have in your watch list, things like that. It's all related to financial information. And then what's kind of interesting as well is like we have conversations with the editors about like they will help us tune the algorithm. So basically with this product as well, there's still like an editor in the loop to make sure that what people are experiencing with this personalized content is the best experience that they could possibly see. And we've also looked at the possibility of having do we have people create content just for this new platform for WSJ Plus that's like exclusive to this brand? Those are things we're thinking through now.
I love seeing kind of that difference of it, right? Where on the one hand, because you're coming from an editorially curated position, that really informs and controls a lot of what you're doing on the front end. Whereas it sounds like the LA Times is a little more organic in that, and willing to do A/B testing and willing to maybe push those boundaries. Ranjit, can you talk a little bit about kind of how you see that and the things that Google offers to media companies and to creators?
Yeah, certainly. I think overall we're looking at, first off, I'd say we are very entrenched when it comes to developing tools and tool sets that can be utilized by creators, by content production entities and others in order to tell those stories, in order to create that content inherently. I see a lot of this at the forefront of the democratization of these tools over time, which that's not something that's a new thing with AI. That's the continuation of that trend. We all have a film studio in our pockets these days, right? So continuing that so that there's a level of accessibility, but again, at scale. To Tom's point as well about the editorial and loop piece, filmmaking or content production is inherently, as it is today, a very social mechanism and construct, right? So that type of collaboration and creativity is inherent, and I don't think it's going to be that's going to be replaced by any means. Right. Beyond that, what I would say is when it comes to things like A/B testing, it goes back again to that personalization and ability to develop greater engagement. We've seen that in a lot of platforms looking at that kind of A/B testing process. What AI allows you to do is, whether it's, we'll take a YouTube example, right, of a poster image or a key art image on a given video, being able to provide that accessibility to A/B testing at the level of where any creator can figure out what the optimal imagery is going to be to drive engagement with their content is something that I think the AI piece of that is enabling. And then getting back to the other point about, I mean, we are absolutely seeing AI interest and adoption within post-production workflows, VFX workflows, editorial in particular. But again, going back to the creativity point about the human-in-the-loop point of things, I think it's a simple example of what we're seeing. We're not seeing editorial replace it's the first editor that comes to my mind, like a Sally Menke style vision, right, for a piece. What we're seeing is something like, hey, we've just created a live video, we've just done a live stream. Can you automate the clipping of this? And can you give us a level of video intelligence to show us who's showing up and when are they showing up and where are they showing up and what kind of brands am I seeing in the frame? It's things that are allowing you to personalize results and target things like advertising and to make viewing experiences more palatable for those viewers. And then, yeah, you would still, in those cases, you're still going to have an editorial team. You're still going to have a clean pass on editorial that's going to come later. But that first pass, where it might have previously taken you 1-2 days, now this could take you 1-2 hours or minutes, right? That's a pretty big difference in adding that efficiency and time savings to organizations.
One of the things, and to add one more thing on that, to prompt you
Yeah.
for it, that
Sure.
you've had insights too about the mobility of the workforce. And
Yeah.
and the impact that has then on their choice of tooling and their expectations.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting paradigm, like zooming out, even when you look across, my background again is in really studio content production, but when you look at the landscape across media and entertainment, it's inherently a transient workforce, right? But then it's also very project-based, very vision and sort of future visualization and sort of white space, if that's the right term, white space driven, right? In terms of showing people something or having them consume something that they've never seen before, right? So, but at scale, there's a pragmatism to that because we all have budget limitations, right? We all have timing and deadline limitations. We all have constraints to that, and we have a transient workforce that on often a contract basis or talent booking basis needs to move between different projects. So the balance of that is I think you see a lot of large-scale innovation that's happening, like visual breakthroughs on things like, if you've seen what Google did with Wizard of Oz and the Sphere most recently, where they were up-resing as well as providing performance style capture and outpainting capabilities for a film that had never been shown on a screen of that size and in that type of experience. That level of innovation is going to be driven for the time being by projects like that. But then you have to couch that as well or counterbalance where we're seeing at scale a lot of these more efficiency plays in process, right? Where it's helping more so than I'd say straight like cost savings mechanisms and things like that. It's about time savings and about being able to tell that story better. And I should stop talking at a certain point, but the one note that comes to mind or example that comes to mind is at one point at a prior company I worked at, we were enabling burst render capabilities in the cloud for VFX companies, right? But the key finding, we thought initially, oh, this might save on cost or something like that, or had theories about what the outcomes might be. truth is, it didn't actually result in a lowering of content budgets or a net savings, because what would happen is now that those burst render cloud capabilities are available, you could do more iterations of a scene. You could do more VFX passes of a scene. You could do more tries within the time and the budget that's been allotted. And then that resulted in a net gain in quality of the content, right? Which is harder to measure, but that's what the output was, is you saw that increased audience engagement and click-through nature on that content where previously it wasn't there.
And that just shows that the quality of video, at least, is a gas. It'll expand to fill the budget you give it.
That's right.
It's a spectacular show way. Thank you for that. So Deepika, coming back then to kind of your background and kind of what you do at the LA Times, which is really that product management and project portfolio management of all these initiatives. We're hearing from Rajat of all the things that could be done. Can you tell us about, how do you prioritize, how do you pick, and what makes it successful?
That's a very interesting question. But before I answer that, I'll double down on what Ranjit was just sharing about the targeting ads and trafficking. Yeah. We have all targeted based on the static and the dynamic ad tags with, of course, the help of our partners at Google for years. Mm-hmm. But now with the AI tools, there's just so many opportunities that have opened up where the image recognition for my earlier example of editorial archives could be used. Let's say Princess Diana carrying a Birkin bag back in the day, and Hermes is still our customer and is still advertising with us. That image recognition can identify that and target an Hermes ad right next to that. Not that you can buy a Birkin by walking into the store anymore, but it's very true for Cartier, Tiffany, who are still our long-standing customers.
Right.
And same can be done for video content as well. So,
perfect.
Yeah, the opportunities are endless there.
And then having that trigger, that bit of content trigger that relevant advertising.
Exactly, exactly. And people who have the affinity to these luxury designers or brands, when they see an iconic historic figure carrying it, that influences.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of the priorities and how we do, coming back to that. It is difficult on predicting what is going to work and what is not, which initiatives to prioritize. So it's obviously the data and the insights are factored into it, the forecast. We do we have researchers, we have data scientists who create these models that can give some predictions around what is going to work. And then there is this bandits and the modern way of doing A/B testing on what users recognize, appreciate, or lean more towards versus not. So all of these measures together, we have a stellar analytics team who brings these insights for us. All of these together help us pick where to put our bets on. And some are successful, some not so much, but that's what everybody goes through.
And then that's the advantage of having that stream that you can dip into and do your testing on the back of, right?
Exactly, yes.
Tom, you were talking about that earlier today, about the way that you're doing that and the way that you roll things out and how you think about your stream of users. Could you talk a little bit about that for change and for new features and so forth?
Yeah, I think in Dow Jones, we were actually a little bit, coming from Google, I think, where so much of the work that I did there was data-driven. A lot of features we were shipping were sort of based on sort of inferred user behavior, right? That level of sophistication is still something that's relatively new to us at Wall Street Journal and Dow Jones. We have sort of some of the behavioral information that kind of direct us sort of in the general vicinity of what we think a user might actually want for us to build, and we'll kind of prioritize that, based on some of the research that my team will perform, where we'll do off products, particularly my design team will create prototypes and things like that we'll take off product and put in front of a user some slice of users that we know are either have a high degree of propensity to engage with the Wall Street Journal, or sometimes we even have CEO panels that will sort of show concepts too, so we'll validate some things like that. But we are doing a ton of off-product design testing to see what resonates with people, because we have, we kind of get the signal from the data that we derive from, usage of the app, kind of gives us some like directional steering. We have some like, really good intuition that we know from our customer insights information. And, we also have a lot of really smart people who are kind of going out and, coming back, talking to different audiences and being like, hey, we heard this really interesting concept. And, my team will kind of like spin up some rapid prototypes and see, kind of like experiment with it, put it in front of users. But we are really trying to stack rank prioritization against sort of like subscriptions growth at the end of the day, making sure that we're actually working on building out the platform to support all these new modern media formats that we're trying to support within the native applications. And we kind of stack rank things in kind of those order, but it's not like an exact science, but I think we're doing a pretty good job.
That's excellent. Yeah. And maybe we'll pick up then on that last piece on the monetization idea and kind of balancing that as kind of our closing quick one. And Deepika, do you want to give us your view on that, on the challenge of monetization as you are rolling out new products, new platforms, new content?
Growing subscriptions, retaining subscribers is always the goal. But with the content that we have, we are also trying to monetize how can the same content be packaged with the help of AI tools and served differently on different platforms. To his point of podcast, we have been into podcast for a very long time. We are also creating short documentaries. We just won an Academy Award last year for our short documentary, The Last Repair Shop. We have a brand new...
That was a great one, by the way. I saw that one. Yeah.
We have our new streaming channel, which streams 12 hours a day on our homepage that serves content about premium coverage on news, travel, entertainment, lifestyle, and many other topics, because we have been seeing the shift of viewers, like 43% viewers, according to a Nielsen report, are watching more streaming channels than the TV or the broadcasting.
Right.
So all of these efforts are to increase the subscribers, retain the subscribers, and engage more and more with our audience. Our events, we just wrapped up very successful Festival of Books event. It's the biggest literature event of the country, where our journalists are able to engage with audiences in hundreds of thousands of visitors that we get. So anything and everything that I listed is all part of monetization.
Lovely way to think of it, right? It's just such a stream of content and goodness and engagement. Really, all comes back to storytelling.
Increased engagement will give increased conversion, increased retention.
Yeah. It's amazing how scientific it's becoming at some levels, right? All right. Well, look, I think we've run on time, so thank you so much. Have a round of applause for our panel, please, and insights. Really appreciate that.